hydroplaning will happen if if you're having to deal with a set of tires that are, you know, looking like they're kind of slick on the front. You know, they pull on front-wheel drive cars and they wear out quicker on the front. So I like to have the best ones in the front anyway, because they're more prone to pump the water out of the way when they hit a puddle. And if you've got really good tires on the back and ball tires on the front, you're more likely to hydroplane anyway. You know, a better tire, like you'll have some people have their better tires on the back than they're good because they, for whatever reason, they just wind up that way. But I always try to put the ones with the deepest tread on the front if I can. Wherever, you know, that just keeps you where you're less likely to hydroplane. There was a car one time that was a Plymouth Volare. Somebody might even remember what a Plymouth Volare is. And back in the days, in the 70s, there was a time back in the 70s when a large percentage of the cars out there had bias-ply tires, which were not radials. They were just a plain old tire that kind of had they didn't actually grip the road quite as good as a radial, but they just basically had a tire surface like that. You know, and a radial is more of a, like this, right? So that whenever you go around a curve, it sort of rolls over and grabs the road. The radials just do a whole lot better for handling and stuff. And they grip the road a heck of a lot better. They look, one of the things that we always used to notice about radials was they always look about half flat. Not half flat, but they look partially flat. These bias-ply tires didn't grip the road as good. The rubber was a little harder, and the composition of the tire was different. So if you looked at it, you'd actually see a tire that looked like that, and it didn't have this curve of the radial with the tread running all the way up the side. Well, this one guy named Paul, I don't remember what his last name was, he actually was driving a company car. It was a Plymouth one. This guy didn't have any integrity whatsoever. He was an absolute jerk, you know. And so what he would do, what he did was, is he took the best tires, and he didn't know anything about tires other than the fact when you look at them, some got better tread than others. And he had a car of his own that belonged to him at home that was just like the one that belonged to the company. And so he took that car and swapped the tires off of the company car onto his car that were the best tires. And they wound up somehow or another, the way he put them on there, and I don't even know how he made this happen. He put on that particular car, well, anyway, let's just stop at that point and say that he changed out the tires. So immediately after that, we got a bunch of new cars. And I never had even seen that car again after he did that, because we'd get them in there periodically and do maintenance like we do these college cars. But this woman named Ethel Blood was her name, believe it or not. She bought that car from the company, that Plymouth Volare that he had driven, that he had put some of the tires off his car on. And she was driving in Port Arthur, Texas, which was where we were living, and she had a really nasty crash. Now, it didn't hurt her, but it ripped that car all to shreds. And I was talking to her about it. Well, they asked me, they says, go and look at that car. Well, no, I talked to her first, and I said, what happened in your accident? She goes, I have no idea. She said, I was just driving in traffic, and I had to stop, and all of a sudden the car just went crazy, and I just went all into other trains of traffic and got hit 4 or 5 times, and just a terrible mess, caused a huge pileup right there. And I said, you did? Ooh, I wonder what happened there. She said, I don't know. She said, I was just driving the way I've always driven. She was in her 50s. She'd driven all of her life. So they told me, the people that, since I was in charge of the maintenance of the vehicle over, and this was like 1979 or 80 or whatever it was, they said, go over there to where that boneyard is, where that car is at, and see if there's any way that we might be able to salvage that car and fix it so she can drive it, because she just bought it from the company and they felt really bad about it. And she was a nice lady and everybody liked her. So I went over there and I looked, and I found out when I walked over there what the reason that car crashed. I could tell you when it crashed, and just from listening to what she said, what that guy had done is there was here, your 4 tires on the car. He had radial tires here and here, and he had bias-ply tires here and here. And see, when he just popped them on there, the radial tires, there's enough of a difference between the way radial tires grip and bias-ply tires that it will cause an accident. Now, nobody's going to really have to have this information now, because bias-ply tires are practically a thing of the past. I'm not even sure you can buy them anymore, unless you're going to buy them from for a trailer.
They look more like drag tires.
Sort of yes and no, but they're just a cheap little, I don't know. They don't grip the road like a radial. But that when I saw that the way the tires, the way they were configured on that car, I said that's why this car crashed. You know, there wasn't anybody's way to prove what that guy did, but I knew how that guy was. You know, and he's the one that was technically, he was responsible for that. You know, but one way or another. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. At the time, if they'd have run that car through the shop and I walked around it, I probably wouldn't even have thought anything about that. But I mean, when she described what happened, and all I did was drive like I normally did, and all of a sudden the car just, you know, like if you got two tires that aren't gripping the pavement well and two that are, you're going to go into a. You remember the guy I told you about that put the brakes? He had drum brakes all the way around on his Chevrolet, and his name was T-Boy. He was a Cajun guy, and he called David Hughes, who ran the parts house up there, and he said, "I put brakes on my truck, and when I hit my brakes, now I'll go back where I come from." And so David went and got in the truck, and he heads down the road, and he hits the brakes, and the truck swapped ends in the road. As soon as he hit the brake, that's what he did. Well, what he did, the guy had put the short shoes on the left front and the right rear, and the long shoes on the right front and the left rear. Because all the shoes looked alike, because it was drum brakes all the way around, they were the same size. And so when you have two wheels that are stopping really good, you know, on the front, rear, and the left, front and the left, you know what I'm saying? If you got them crisscross, you're going to have this catty corner stopping business that's going to cause you to swap ends in the road like a handbrake turn, so you ain't got no control over it. And that's what happened with them tires. Right. The major splice of a tire, when you look at the inside of a tire, that is that inside, that right there in the middle. See where they're pointing? All right, that line right in the middle of the inside of the tire is a major splice. That's the stiffest point of the tire, and it can be seen and felt on the inside. The person that builds the tire usually places a sticker near that major splice, and that's the quality control identification. You ever see a sticker inside of a tire and wonder what it was there for? That's what it's there for. That's a quality control sticker. Whenever they're looking at the inside of the tire, they're going to put that sticker in there. You know, you got to put all the parts together on a tire building machine.
Do you have a video on how they do tires?
No, but what I'm saying is, I think this here is going to give you some pretty decent information about that. But what you got here is you got your lower section of your mold and your upper section. See how when you put those together and they bite it, that's going to give you your tread and everything else. After it's been put on, you know, into a completed green tire, that means it hasn't been vulcanized or anything. It put it in a tire mold, and it's molded in the shape. The rubber's changed chemically with the heat, and that's non-reversible. It's called vulcanization. You know what? On this little gasket stuff that we use, RTV stands for room temperature vulcanizing. You don't have to have heat, and it turns into hard rubber. Well, this old soft rubber. You know what color rubber is? The natural color of rubber.
Did you say it was white?
White. Now, you remember the old gangster tires on the, you know, cars in the 1930s? The reason those tires had them white walls on them wasn't so they looked pretty. They did that because the natural color of a tire is white. They had to put this black stuff in there to make it where it didn't wear good charcoal and a bunch of other junk, I guess. But the fact is they would only put it on the tread on those, and that's what made the tire last longer. They didn't put that on there to wear out real quick. Well, they found out if we put this stuff in there, it lasts a lot longer. Well, now they just put it all over the whole tire. But the natural color of rubber is still white. If you see the juice coming out of a rubber plant, it's white.
Is that why they have white letters on tires?
Yeah, that white letters is the natural color of the rubber. Yeah, and you know that's what the deal is. Anyway, so you're going to have typical construction of radial tire. Some tires you got only one body ply, some use more than two belt plies. See all that you got? Basically, you got belts and stuff running this way and that and the other, and gives it all that strength. Coated steel beads. See that bead down in there? That coated steel bead is the reason why you can't get a tire on or off a rim unless the other side is in the drop center part of the rim. That bead has got to be, you know, if you look at the cross section of the rim is made like this. That's the drop center. In other words, this will be your wheel right here. And that drop center is really important because that gives the bead somewhere to go while it's going over this. See that? And if you stretch that tire over that, this battery down here, that ain't going to go on there. That's even true if you're putting a dadgum riding lawnmower tire on a wheel. You ever tried doing that at home? I mean, a big old riding lawnmower tire about this big around, you got to get that bead in that drop center, or you ain't never going to get that tire on there. You're going to fight and pry and tear and fuss and sweat and all that kind of stuff. All right. So I've got only one body ply. All right, now look at this. This is cool. This is very, very cool. Cross-sectional view of a typical tire. This is going to give you everything you were talking about right here. look at that picture. There's what those numbers mean. You can actually freeze that. You can burn that in. Let's go ahead and burn that in.
I remember we had to do this.
Huh? Remember
we
that?
We studied a little bit.
Absolutely, we studied it. And what you got right here, your section width in millimeters, 205. There's your section width. It's 205 millimeters wide. Do you understand that, and can you remember that? 205 millimeters wide. Aspect ratio. All right? That's your series. Got that? All right? R is radial, B is bias delta, D is diagonal bias, whatever. This is about all you're going to see down to your arm. 15 is your rim diameter. Look at your load index and your speed rating. We don't usually pay a lot of attention to those. But if you've got that's why if you go to Walmart and you're going to buy tires for your 140 mile an hour Mustang, you're going to have, they're only going to put the tires on there that it calls for. They're not going to put cheap, crappy tires on your Mustang because what happens? They come apart.
We're not like the rest of you know, we don't have much stuff.
Yeah. All right, but the aspect ratio, now can you tell me about the aspect ratio? Tell me about that.
The aspect ratio would be...
Look, the section height over the section width is 75 times. See that? If your section height and your section width, see, this is actually going to be 75% of that. That's basically what that means. So it's 75% as tall as it is wide. Yeah? You raised your arm.
No, I'm stretching.
All right, there's your tread area, your shoulder area, your sidewall area, your lower sidewall, your tubeless valve, your bead, and all that. They're coming up with all kinds of neat tire technology nowadays. They've actually got tires that have little bladders built into here so that they will air themselves up while you're driving down the road, using the weight of the car to actually pump atmosphere into that tire, and they'll stop pumping it in there when it gets to the right.
Talking about the tires.
Are those like stock tires, or?
Yeah, that's some tires you gotta buy. But the fact is, you never have to add air to those tires unless you got a major, hole in one of them. Because if you got a slow leak, as long as you're driving the car, it'll pump itself back up. Like you would start, if you would start over in Montgomery, headed this way on a tire that was half flat by the time you got here, it'd be full of air.
How does the tires work? Like, I don't know exactly what you call them. I don't remember. Like so you're driving down the road, you run over a nail, but it like airs it back up.
Yeah. Well, there's probably some stuff out there I don't know about. But this thing I'm talking about would do that.
Yeah. What about the sensors?
The tire pressure monitors. What do you mean by that? What about
Where
them?
are they located at? Like.
Oh no, you mean for that thing?
Yeah.
Well, actually, the way that the bladder stuff is designed, it actually is going to stop working when it gets. They don't really have a sensor. It actually just stops. But the way they designed it stops putting air in there when the pressure comes to where it's calibrated for. So there's not really a sensor per se, and it is totally a mechanical process. The weight of the car squishing the tire is what's basically pumping that air in there. Which is whenever the weight's not on it, it grabs some air. Whenever the weight of the tire goes, it's constantly pumping that air in there. But it stops doing it. It closes a little flap whenever it gets to the right. It's a sort of a complicated deal. I don't know why it hadn't caught on unless it didn't work well. Now there's your date code. You're going to see your DOT part of it over there. We looked at that in the last slide. But look at the CTT. That's the date code. The last four numbers indicate the week and the year the tire was built, the fourth week of 2001. Is that cool? Did you know anything about that? Hey man, if I was you, I'd be out there checking out some tires. If you can look at that tire and tell, okay, and remember this, if I ask you, what if I said a tire was a 225, 75, or a 15, what does that mean?
Just 225 wide.
Yeah, millimeters.
75 millimeters.
Well, not 75. It's 75% as tall as it is wide.
Right. See
the difference, and you don't have an actual measurement. You can do the math, but basically it's 75% as tall as it is wide, and that's what that means. 225, 75. And everybody needs to burn that in. I can show you that one slide, and you're going to get crossed up on that. But 225 is the width of the tire from, and I didn't draw that one with a flip, and I didn't draw that right either. All right, from here to here, see, it's 225, And when you measure the height of it, this is going to be 75% of what that is. Like for instance, if this was, let's say it was a 100, you don't see this, I'm just giving you this for easy math. Okay, 70 R15. Okay, so it would be 100 millimeters here, which would be 4 inches, right? And so this right here is going to be 70 inches. I mean, 70 millimeters. So it's 70 millimeters this way, and it's 100 millimeters that way. See, that would be a 100/70, slash 70 slash R15. So, but
can we grab a tire and actually talk about us, like show on a tire?
yeah, you can do that.
I just want
I'm going to measure that now. Some of it may not be aired up. There is a tire back there leaning. It's just an empty tire that I took off the wheel, leaning against the the cabinet by the yeah. It's just to the right of the tire machine.
Couldn't keep up with the car.
That's it. By the way, I put that thing back there to grab the tires where we can work on the flats real easy without having to stand the tire up on the. Right.
If you have like for instance, my truck when it was
to.
bought.
Oh, actually, the one that Dodge running.
Oh yeah, easily. Let's switch it up on that.
Well, a vehicle not drive good if it has two radial tires on the back of a different kind, like if it has different type of tires on it.
Well, it depends on how different they are. If they're not too
The ones
badly
on the
different.
back I have are 275, I think 65s, I think.
Yeah. Now this one right here
The two up
is
front,
this is a. If you look at this one here, if you look at the size on it, you see you got what? You got 185 60R 14. Is that right? 185 60R 14.
You're right.
Okay. Now the other part of it that we're looking at right here, if you look over here, let's see if we can find the rest of it. And I haven't even looked that up. Now a lot of times people will look on the side of the tire and try to determine how much air. You don't look on the side of the tire, you look on a sticker in a door, to figure out what the side of the tire is.
The side tire only tells you the maximum capacity it can hold. Right?
All right, now look at this. See that? You got this right here is your date stamp and your DOT, your speed rating and load. See that? That's what that is. All right. Now then, 185. This tape measure that I got right here, as I hold that up there. If you look at it, now this is with your tires aired up and sitting on the ground, it's going to be slightly wider, and that's how it's measured. But this one here, if you look at that right there, if you look at it right there, and you measure that, you can see that we're looking at about what?
7.
Now look at your meters, not the inch.
Oh.
The metric is on the bottom. See that?
Yeah.
What's the measurement there? That look like about 180 millimeters?
So that'd be 180.
See that? You got it. This goes 10. Look at the red 10. See the red 10? And you're going to go to 8 past that. See, that's your measurement. If you measure it that way, you're going to go that way. All right. Now then, at this point, if you measure this part all the way to the top, what is that? That looks like that's about, what, 110 millimeters? If I measure it from there, I'm rough. Maybe 100 millimeters. Okay? So, somebody do some math here for me. Somebody can do some math? You're pretty good at math. How about that?
No.
You're pretty good at math.
No.
All right, let me ask you this. Well, pull out your dadgum telephone and bust off your calculator, man. Everybody's got a smartphone nowadays.
I don't.
Okay, 185. Okay, what is, now remember what our tire size was. And I like this tire in here because it's really easy to handle. It's light. 185 60R 14 with an 82H, rating on it. 185. So what's 60% of 185? Okay.
Would it be about 32 and a half? No, wait, hold on.
Pardon me?
Sorry. hold
Okay. Let me ask you this. Well, let's back up. Let's back up and do this the easy way. What is 10% of 185?
18.
18.5. Okay, so 18.5. Okay, what's 10? What's 6 times that?
It's 111.
And that's what we read, wasn't it?
Yeah.
On our tape measure, right?
It's 185 times 0.6 because it's not a full 100%, so you get 111.
There you go. See, so it's 111. So what we measured without this tire being aired up was we actually measured, and from what I could tell with my silly little tape measure, doing it the way I did it, I measured 180 millimeters. And going down this way, that was actually across here. And going down here to the bead from there up, I actually measured a little over 100 millimeters. So this marker is just pitiful. Anyway, but 100 millimeters. Got a whole closet full of markers up in the administration office that I can sign out and get, and I can't even remember to get for him. Anyway, 100 millimeters this way, 180 that way. You understand this now? You get it? Are you burning it in, or am I just totally out in left field trying to get
I understand it now.
Yeah, got it. Bingo. Well, you typically burn that kind of stuff in pretty good for your head knowledge. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Brett the other day about that you would probably make a really good parts man. Parts guy. I don't know. Well, he didn't say they were, but I just told him that. Told him that you'd probably make a good parts guy because you remember things so well. All right. So, and what about the date? When was this tire built? Can you tell me when this tire was built? Let me see what the.
Last week of January in 01.
This one here.
No, that one. That's the one. That one.
Yeah, I know. Well, that one there's got the answer. You see.
Well,
4th week.
The date stamp on this one. The date stamp on this one. See, that says. It says CHA 227. What does that mean?
CHA.
CHA 227. See, that's where it is. This is actually the date stamp on this tire. It's a Bridgestone tire. CHA 227. And out up there I see CTT 0401. All right, so if I'm saying 227.
It was built the 22nd week in 97.
Well, maybe, but see what they're saying doesn't work for this date code. You got to understand the date code that Bridgestone is using on theirs, and it's not exactly. Well, let's see that. Wait a minute. Tires built before the year 2000 have 3 digits. Look at that.
I know that's why I got.
Aha! Bingo. Was the 20? That's where you got that. The 22nd week of 1997. Well, that's ridiculous that this one here's got exactly what they're saying.
I know, right?
Oh!
That's why when it said 227, I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
I don't believe that. Well, that's where you got this number, and you're to be commended. All right. Never mind. If it's got 3 digits. So, wait a minute. The 22nd week of 1997? So that's an old tire, isn't it? Now, can you remember that? Can you remember how the date code works? All right, let me ask you this. If a tire was built in August of 2008, what would the code be? You remember? August of 2008, what would the code be? No, excuse me. That's which week. That's what they're talking about. So it's built during the 22nd week.
36th week of 08. Oh.
Yeah, 36th week of 08. The date code would be 3608. Is that right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, because I just did 4 times.
If it's built before 2000, though, it's only got 3 digits, which would be like the 22nd week. But like I say, that totally tossed me for a loop because this is exactly the same as our. Oh, I can't believe
It's
that.
that good.
And there's your treadwear 300 means the life expectancy of 3 times that of a standardized tire. Let's see if we can find that on this tire right here. Where's the treadwear? Treadwear 260. See treadwear 260 right there?
So 260 times the life of a normal tire.
Yeah, but define the standardized tire. I guess they gotta have a standard. I guess they probably have a really low standard for a standardized tire, right?
Just like
All right, now there's your traction. See the traction? All right, what does it say about traction A? See the traction? There's the traction rating right there.
So what's the traction on that one?
Traction A. Look at that. This thing right there. All right. So there it is. The traction performance is rated by letters A, B, or C, with A the highest rating and C the lowest rating. Think about that. If it says traction A, that's good. If it says traction C, you're liable to slide off the road. Especially if you're driving a gray Chevrolet pickup with dents in the fender, it's just that transmission rebuilt. So they have good tires on it or not?
No, it sucks.
That's why he got rid of it.
That's one reason too.
Well, where's the temperature? We got a temperature reading on this tire? This one here is not. Oh yeah, temperature A. This one says temperature A too. You see that again? Let's shine Shine the camera on temperature A. Got that? There's what you got. Learning a lot about tires, more than we thought we needed to know. Notice that the overall outside diameter of the tire remains almost the same when the aspect ratio is decreased and the rim diameter is increased. See that? See how you're changing that? Okay, now that's not a big deal, but that's not too hard to figure out, right? Got it? And we got a little high performance tip we can go into here. Just see what it says there. Many people think they can improve their vehicle by upgrading the tire size over the size that comes from the factory to make their vehicle look sportier, ride and handle better. But when changing tire size, you have to remember that the tire should be the same outside diameter as the original, so your proper steering, suspension, and ride height spec will be reached. Tire size affects vehicle speed sensor values, ABS brake wheel speed sensor values that change automatic transmission operation and ABS operation, and it shouldn't be so wide as to contact the inner wheel well or suspension components.
So it's probably not good to put bigger tires on.
If you, well, you can do that, but you got a lot to pay attention to. See that? A tire that's 10 millimeters wider is acceptable. So an original equipment size 205/75 or X15, outside diameter 27.1 can be changed to a 215/75 X15, which X is just basically R. It would be like R is what we'd be looking for there, but the reason they put X there is because it can be, you know, R, B, or whatever. Outside diameter would be 27.6. So that is less than a ½ inch width and increases outside diameter by ½ inch. So when you're changing your tires, you got to make sure the load capacity is the same or greater than that of the original tires. You got to look at, you got to think about the speed rating. There's a lot more to that. Look at all that. There's your time. All right, let's move on. Conicity is cone. It's a fault in the tire that can cause it to pull to one side due to the cone effect. Some tires may not even have that effect, so that you can see it. Whenever you got weight on the tire, it may be acting like a cone and causing the vehicle to pull, and you can't really look at it and tell there's anything going on, but you can darn sure feel it. That's why if you move the tires from the front to the right, you know, from the front, you know, the back and swap the front ones, if it pulls the opposite direction, you know you get tire issues, basically. All right, so a rubber snap-in valve assembly, you got the metal clamp-in tighten. Usually if you see the metal one, it ordinarily means, not every time, it usually means you got tire pressure monitor, but they actually have tire pressure monitors now that will pop in there and have a rubber valve stem. My pickup truck has got tire pressure monitor, but it's actually a sensor that's banded to the wheel, right in the middle of the drop center. It's just got plain old valve stems and all that. So.
How does it, if it's in the wheel, how does it get, like, connection to the...
It's all radio.
Okay, so it just sends a signal.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's got a battery in it.
And when that sensor goes out, you have to change the battery or change the sensor completely?
That's right.
Okay.
Mine doesn't tell me which tire is low. It just tells me that a tire is low, and I got to go hunting it. And I had a tire that went low on my right rear. I drove home, and everything was fine. I woke up the next morning and had a flat tire on my right rear on my pickup truck. And whenever I got around to fixing the doggone thing, I put the spare on there. There was a beer bottle, piece of a beer bottle in the doggone tire. I don't know where I ran over a beer bottle at, but it punctured the doggone tire. You weren't throwing a beer bottle out over there? I don't guess so. Okay.
I was Tyler.
No,
All right.
I don't remember.
You always inflate your tires when they're
Battery
cold,
doesn't taste bad.
and you use the tire pressure
It's like
specified on the door placard. Now you're going to have to open all the doors, and you're going to have to look on. Usually the Ford will put it on the regular decal where the serial number is. Some of the other ones will put it, you know, on the B pillar right when you open the door, you'll see it. I've seen it on the right side of the car, right rear door. If you open it up, you'll see it over there. So just look everywhere for it. You'll find one somewhere on that car typically, unless the car's been wrecked and they painted over it or something like that.
I've seen one, instead of them having it in the door, they had it under the hood.
Yeah. Yep. That's very possible, but it's something that you don't usually see under the hood.
It wasn't like here, it was actually under the hood.
Yeah. Sidewall to reinforce. Bead keeps the tire on the rim at zero pressure. You know what that means? What does it mean when they say bead keeps the tire on the rim at zero pressure? Think about what they're talking about. You guys got to think. I'm trying to teach you how to think. You know,
Just mean
in
it's
regular,
still
in public
there,
school,
even
I teach you how to learn. I'm trying to teach you how to think. Huh?
Even though it's out of air, it's still, the
It's
tire's still
that's
on the
right. That's why you got this. In other words, you got a sort of a bump right here. And then you got your drop center, and you got a bump. And there's your little, and this I sort of actually didn't quite do that right. It would look like that. And when the bead is here, see that bead is small enough to where it wants to stay inside that bump.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you have to use that attachment on the side to break the bead. Not only is you're trying to jump it over that bump, you're also trying to break the rubber loose where it may be stuck to the wheel and all that. So there's your cutaway of a run flat tire. Ooh, showing the reinforced sidewalls and the required pressure sensor. Run flats. See that?
Well, my car came stock with
Yeah.
for a spare run flat.
Well, run flats. Not a bad idea. I heard about those in that one movie that time. A magnet used to relearn the tire pressure sensor location after the wheels have been rotated. Now you can't always do that with a magnet. You know, some of them you use a magnet, some of them you can't. You might notice our tire pressure monitor thing out here has got a magnet built into the back of it.
Wes just texted me and said to tell you he's at home with a sick baby.
Okay. All right. Then. Well, tell him he's missing the best lecture I've given all year. All right. Performing a tire pressure sensor location relearn procedure with the key on and the engine off. You know, you just got to look at that. There's so many different ways to do that. You know, you can't. Like if somebody walked up here and says, "Hey, can you handle my putting my?" Like I say, I don't have to relearn mine. Mine just tells me a tire is low. But on the Chevy Malibu, Impala, like the President drives, or like Sonia's got, theirs tells them exactly how much pressure is in each tire. That's why you have to relearn them. Now, on some of your Honda cars, you just rotate the tires and drive the car, and it learns where they are, which is pretty doggone cool. You know, I don't want everybody to do it that way.
How come on the Impalas, like you were talking about, they're kind of bad about it'll tell you right front tires low?
Because whenever they get the tires rotated at that tire place over there and by the other campus, they don't ever reset those. I mean, they don't ever relearn them. What they do is they just rotate the tires and don't worry about telling
How do
them.
you relearn?
On that one, what you got to do is that we've got this tire pressure, this tire pressure monitor activator tool. I got a couple of them. And on that particular Impala, you turn on the key and you mash the lock and the unlock buttons on the fob and hold it for about 5-6 seconds. And it goes honk, honk. It honks the horn twice.
Next time when those come in there, can you show us?
And then you I've got this tool and I go to the left. You got to start at the left front wheel and go to the right front, and then go to the right rear, and then go back to the left rear. But you go, when you mash your button to activate that sensor, it goes honk, honk. It blows the horn when it tells you, okay, I got that one. Now move over to the other one. You go to the right front, you mash the button, it goes honk. And when you go all the way around, it goes honk. All of them honking. Now it knows where they all are because it knows that you're going from left front to right rear to left rear. That's on a Chevy. Right. Now some of the other ones aren't that way. They got different ways of doing it. That's why I've got 2 books about that thick in there that cover all of the cars, the different types of tire pressure monitor systems. That OTC tire pressure monitor tool is a $750 tool. And it eats C-cell batteries for lunch. If you take C-cell batteries and pop in there a brand new set and you relearn a couple of sets of tires, you're going to be throwing those batteries away and starting over with compression. This red one out here, this other little tire pressure monitor tool that I got, was sent to me when I ordered some scan tools from Tooltopia. They sent me a couple of those just as a sort of a bonus. And they belong to the college. They're not mine to just do what I want to with. But anyway, those really don't ever take batteries. They don't hardly use any battery power at all. And they do pretty much. Now, they're not as fancy. On the OTC, you're going to tell it like a scan tool. You're going to say, I've got a 2008 Chevy Impala, blah, blah, blah. You go to your book and you see what the book says. This is the way you put it in tire learn mode. Now, some of your Dodges only have, and they got a little transceiver. Well, they got a little tire pressure monitor in the tire, and then in the wheel well, they got a receiver that's right there by it. But they've only got 3 receivers. The 4th one they don't need because if they know where 3 are, the 4th one has to be in the other place. Here's another thing. If you're getting a tire pressure monitor and you're saying, well, gosh, all my tire pressures are right, all my sensors are reading like they're supposed to, what am I supposed to do about a tire pressure monitor, light? Well, the spare on some cars has got a tire pressure monitor sensor in it too. And now you find out the dadgum spare's flat.
Huh.
So if you're going through that, always check your spare, right?
Does the spare on the Impalas have one?
I don't think it does. That is a donut. But I don't believe it. No. So
Just trying to
you
make
get-
sure for next time we got
Yeah.
to check it.
whenever you're breaking a tire down, it's got tire pressure monitor in it, and it's got one of them steel valve films in it. To begin with, they say always break the tire loose at 15 minutes on, 15, like 90 degrees away from that thing, from that tire. But I like to take them things out and just let them fall inside the tire because they're not going to get hurt in there that way. And but we've actually early on Sonia's car, we messed one of those up. They cost about $50 on a Chevy. If you buy one for like a BMW or a Volvo or something like that, some of them, or Porsche, some of them doggone things are $200-300 a piece for the tire pressure sensor. Of course, if you're driving one of those cars, you're pretty much going to be able to afford it anyway. So, all right, there's your cross-sectional view of the wheel. And see, look at that. You got the center line, back spacing, rim, flange, center, bolt circle, front side, back side of it, rim diameter, offset, and rim width. Okay, now how many of those words can you remember? If I throw you a picture like this on your final exam with all of these blank, how many of those you'll be able to get right? Now, if Amanda was sitting there, she'd be drawing a picture right now and putting notes. But do the guys do that? No, the guys sit here and go, I wonder when this is going to be over with so I can get out of the shop. And then you're asking them a question out in the shop, and they said, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention to that during that part of the lecture. Okay. All right, outboard, center line of wheel, backside, blah, blah, blah. This looks like a big deal, right? And it is. Back spacing is the distance from the mounting pad to the edge of the rim. See what they're doing measuring there? Most custom wheels use that measurement method to indicate the location of the mounting pad. You know what a mounting pad is? What's a mounting pad? No, it's on the other side. Well, it's on the other side, the back side of the bolt circle. The mounting pad is the part of the tire that's going to go against the hub. You see what I'm saying? That's the mounting pad. You talk about, somebody's talking about getting some new wheels. You say, well, you better check the depth of your mounting pad. And they're going to say what? Most people don't use that kind of stuff. They just cram some tires on there. People have been fooling with tires for so long that they don't think you can teach them a whole lot. Look at that bump. That bump I'm talking about. See, the bead seats have got a little bump between the bead and the drop well. All right, then you got your bolt circle. Now, you know how to measure? Oh, this is cool. You know how to measure on a wheel to determine if it's the right size for a particular car? How are they measuring that? Let's say, what if let me hit you with this. What if I told you I had a 5 on 5 3/4? That's old, we use in inches and feet. If I have 5 on a 5 3/4 rim, that means you've got, if you measure it, you got 5 lugs, and the ones that are farthest apart are 5 3/4. See what I'm saying? That's basically what you're talking about. Now, if you've got that measurement, that's the way you're going to measure it. If you've got a tape measure and you're at the junkyard and you're trying to say, well, this tire fit my car, if it's 4 on 5 or 4 on 3.5 or 4 on whatever, so you're going to measure from the center of the hole to the center of the hole. But you also have to factor in this dadgum hole in the middle of the wheel too. If it's bigger than what's on your car, it'll work. If it's littler, it won't. Well, think about it. If you got that flange sticking out, if it's smaller, it's just going to rock around. It ain't not going to work.
Isn't that a Ford load pattern?
Yeah, you got to, exactly. There's your 5 bolt. Place the tape measure over the edge of the bolt. And now, they always say read the bolt circle at the center of the second bolt. And I always read it from the center of the hole to the center of the hole. Maybe I was stupid the whole time. I didn't know what I was doing. But they're talking about hooking it over the edge of the bolt and stopping in the center of the bolt as farther from it. You could actually go to this other bolt down here on the bottom right, too. It'd still give you the same kind of measurement. You just can't go 2 that are next to each other. You got your wheel nuts. You got your standard tapered nuts. You got your tapered acre style nuts, and you got your straight shank nuts. Now, let me tell you, some of these aluminum wheels use a different angle on those lug nuts. And some people, I had seen this before, they buy these fancy hot rod wheels, and they put them on their Chevelle. I used to see this back in the 60s and 70s. And they just buy some fancy chrome wheels. Well, the fancy chrome wheels you're supposed to replace all of the lug nuts. Well, they think that's just a money maker, so they just go use my regular lug nuts because they don't look half bad. I don't care what the lug nuts look like. So they put the plain lug nuts from their old steel wheels on these fancy chrome wheels. And now every time you turn around, the wheel's trying to come off the car. And because the angle's wrong on the lug. And this one guy sent me an email, and he says, my Jeep Grand Cherokee, the right front wheel is always trying to come off. And he said, every time I turn around, I'm having to tighten the lug nuts. He said, I don't have that problem with any other wheels. And I says, okay, I'll tell you what you do. Pull the lug nut off of one of the wheels that is not coming loose. And go to your Jeep dealer and buy 4 lug nuts exactly like that one. Or go to wherever you're going to buy lug nuts. You need 4 lug nuts just exactly like this one. Now, don't forget about the ones that are coming loose. We don't even want to fool with those right now. We're going to take this right here. I need 4 lug nuts exactly like this one. And when he did that and he got the right ones and he put them on there, he emailed me back and said, I haven't had any more trouble with that.
Huh.
And it's just as simple as having the wrong dadgum lug nuts. Now, what he could have done that would have solved his problem is he could have put probably 2 of the lug nuts off of one of his wheels, or actually took a lug nut off of 3 other wheels and put 3 on the one that's coming loose, and then put those on the other ones.
See, when it's probably fine.
Never had any more trouble, if he'd have done that. But you got to keep up with that crap, because if you just put your lug nuts all in a pile, now you got to sort them out again. But that's the fact is, that's how that works. So the straight shank nuts have got a washer typically. That's how that works. You fool with those torque. Proper wheel nut torque is essential. Always use a torque wrench or use torque limiting adapters to tighten wheel nuts. You know what Greg used to do? Greg get his impact wrench. He puts it on the wheel. If I just tighten the ever-loving crap out of it, surely it's going to be okay. Well, what does he do then? He begins to stretch the threads a little bit. And some of you guys have run into this in here, and I know you've been a part of it. You start taking the lugs off, and the lug stops turning. It won't, and it won't come off. Well, like Greg or somebody ran into one on a Dodge Neon we were working on, not our Dodge Neon, but another one. And you start taking them off, and it just stops turning. And you keep working with your own back, and it twists it off. Either that, or what's worse, it starts spinning in the hub, and that's what happened on the Altima. That was a pain.
That Altima, I tried to tell Chad when he bought those rims. I did. We had to drill into them rims.
Well, we actually, the place where the lug nut was biting in, we were actually spinning it against that while we were prying on it, and it wasn't,
Oh, he
maybe trouble with that. But
he hit a bump, or somebody opened their door in Walmart parking lot and hit his back fender well, and put a dent in his back fender well. Now every time he hits a bump, it's scrubbing.
Oh, don't you love it? They must have hit it pretty dadgum hard.
So he wanted to bring it over here for me to pull the tire, push the dent up. I was like, we don't do body work.
We don't do body work here.
I said, take it, read.
The method most often recommended for tire rotation is the modified X. Okay, each tire eventually is used at each of the 4 wheel locations that way. So an easy way to remember the sequence, whether it's front or rear wheel drive, is say to yourself, drive wheel straight, cross the non-drive wheels. Right? Drive wheel straight, cross the non-drive wheels. Although, what I typically like to do is cross the drive wheels going back and go straight forward with the ones that aren't driving. That's what I do.
Do you do that on
That's what I
front and
typically
rear wheel, or?
Yeah, just whatever. I mean, whichever vehicle you're working on. You can just go front and back if you're uncomfortable with that. It's just the way that. But the problem with that is, like typically Gene and them, these truck out here that Gene and them's got, of course, y'all, who did the alignment on that college truck?
Last one on jeans.
Yeah, was that West?
West.
Yeah. That thing, Gene said that thing drives so much better after they aligned it, it's just no different. But anyway, for years, they go slow around the parking lot, and when you go slow and you're turning in the parking lot, what are you doing? You're grinding the tire, when you're going slow. Anybody's been doing that. But anyway, clean the bead of the aluminum alloy wheel using a wire brush, and he's using the tire changer itself to rotate the wheel. You can do that. You can rotate the wheel while you scratch it with your, wire brush to make sure. And if you use an electric or air-powered wire brush, that speeds the process, but you got to be careful. I'd use a brass brush if it was me. Okay, you're going to spray soapy water, you've seen this. You're going to use needle nose pliers to pull the object that caused a leak, and that was a piece of glass. Well, I had a beer bottle that went in mine, So you use a ream to clean the puncture hole. Now you see that right there? Now you put a couple of wrenches in there to hold them, yeah. But I've got a tool over there that I just mounted on the bench that holds the tire where you can patch it better.
Really?
Just this morning, me and Gene put it over there. Bought that thing, cost like $79. It's got little hooks. You put the tire up there. That's why I broke this one down. Put the tire up there and you hook, pull the lever down, boom, and you're just right there working on it, man. Yeah.
You must have tires today.
Yeah. The surrounding area is being buffed. You got to buff those little lines down to where they're not there, but you don't want to go down to your steel belts, or you're going to have some leaks.
Jake did that with one of the tires we had to fix.
Yeah, you're not, if you go too far, well, you know, JT has a tendency to be like a bull in a china closet anyway, we respect JT.
You don't even give him the shop, he gives him the China closet.
Yep.
Smaller area.
Yeah, well, anyway, I used to call JT a very small boy. Midget, how big are you? How big are you, very small boy? I said, well, when it doesn't bother you to be called one, I mean, you're not one anymore. Okay. Rubber cement.
Oh, I've seen that.
All right,
dude.
everybody got your new test, right?
Yeah.
All right. Tires act as a part of a vehicle suspension system. Is that true or is that false? It just about has to be true, doesn't it? Okay. Radial tires tend to squirm when a vehicle is driven. They actually don't. Radial tires don't. That's one of the best things about them. A lower profile tire has a shorter section height and it results in more responsive tire that reacts faster during turns. That's true.
Yeah.
You know low profile tires are like that. Of course, you put them fancy 22-inch rims on everything. It rides like a wagon, you know.
And it kills gas mileage.
Yeah.
Serious, unless you get.
Well, I mean, those cars make it, that makes it look good. Everybody's got the right to customize their own car and all that. But if it don't make it look any better, they don't make it run any better, or ride any better, and it gets lousy gas mileage, why are we doing this?
Especially when gas.
That's what I tried to tell Chad. It's gonna kill his gas mileage.
It's like wearing sunglasses indoors.
Tires
When
are
you're outdoors,
expensive.
you wear sunglasses so you can see better. When you're indoors, you wear sunglasses so you can look better, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to see better inside with sunglasses on. You can keep people from seeing it if your eyes are bloodshot or something like that, you know. All right, so you may rotate directional tires from front to rear or rear to front, but each tire must remain on the same side of the vehicle. Directional tires, and that's what you got, is directional tires, right?
That's not true. They just got to be pointing to the front. Train's
Yeah.
got to be facing.
Well,
to the
yeah,
front.
your arrow, think about a tractor tire. You know what's like tractor tires? Tractor tires have got lugs like this. Like that. And those lugs have got to be pointing back away. In other words, if you see the wheel on the tractor and the tractor's going this way, you know, like this is your hood for your tractor and this is your steering wheel. Those right there are going to need to be like this. Now, if you've ever seen anybody put a tractor tire on backwards, you ever seen that?
I've seen it.
What happens there is when they're out there trying to pull something that's digging down, it's throwing dirt everywhere and it's just spinning the tire, but it ain't biting and pulling.
I saw it.
Like the one on the side the one on the side that's doing like it's supposed to, it's going to dig and bite and pull. The one that's got this tires on here backwards, like if they mounted the tire on the wheel backwards, it won't pull worth a
It
run.
looked like he was trying to dig into the ground and spin off at the same time.
Yeah,
The
it's
tires fell
just
off.
bad. Yeah, all right then. So benefits of living in a rural area, right? So, tire with a tread wear rating of 300 will wear faster than a tire with a tread wear rating of 140. Is that true or false? Based on what we just saw, right?
What's number 4?
That's number 4 is, you know about that. Each tire got to remain on the same side of the vehicle.
I
Don't
didn't
play dumb
hear
with me. All right. So, you must tighten the fasteners on any wheel by moving counterclockwise around the wheel from fastener to fastener. That's not true. But you do need to go with a star pattern. You do need to use a torque wrench. We're always supposed to use a torque wrench. And we don't do like Greg and just go, and just hammer on it for a while. I've seen some people in here do that.
I go down the road and give hand gestures
Yeah.
like he does too.
Yeah,
I'm getting tired of that every morning.
yeah. He just does that, you know.
He does it to you every
Yeah.
morning.
Every morning. I'll
For
see
some
a
reason
blue
he
dog.
did that to me. He come by me, he's just like,
Yeah.
why are you stealing my stuff?
Okay, number 7. That's enough about Greg. Tires having plies that run bead to bead parallel to each other with the stabilizer belts under the tread are called, in other words, tires, the plies running bead to bead.
I'd say it's A.
Right. That's a C.
See?
Oh crap.
That's
never mind.
radial tires.
Never mind.
You can do that.
A.
The blank tire provides better handling and improves high-speed stability and fuel economy.
Radio.
Radio.
Now, I used to have this Volkswagen Bug among the 18 or 20 that I owned from the time I was 14 until I had a bunch of different ones. You know, my dad had a Volkswagen shop, so, you know, do the math. Just figure it out. It's what we actually did the Volkswagen thing. But I would put some bias ply tires on the back of that car. And when I would be on some, you know, place where I wanted to, you know, some pavement, like on the helicopter pad across from the church, if it was wet, and I wanted to spin around, I could spin around just fine with them old bias ply tires on there. I mean, I could just, you know, do a handbrake turn or turn real hard without even handbraking and just let the car spin, and then I could come out of the spin after I spun as many times as I wanted to when I was working on it like that. But if I put radial tires on there, I get the calls off my LTD, which my LTD was the car I drove. You know, the Bug was the one I played around with. That's why I was telling you, you play around with your play around ride, your main ride, you leave that sucker alone and you drive it just like it is, because that's the one that's got to get you everywhere You got to depend on it.
All right, Nick.
So I get them radials off of my car and I'd pop them on there because I worked at a gas station. I could, you know, dismount and remount the tires myself without a problem. We had a tire machine over there. But anyway, I put those radials on there, and when I would try to do this nonsense of spinning around on the asphalt out on the helicopter pad with those, it wouldn't work because those radial tires would bite so good. I mean, it was an incredible difference even on wet pavement, and these tires were mostly wore out, but it would just, they just really bite well. All right.
If your two front tires are completely wore out, and you got two good ones on the back, if you've done like the crisscross method, would it drive better and lined it up?
No, I would probably not do that. I'd probably
Just
put the
replace
good
the
ones on the front so you wouldn't hydroplane.
Okay.
And
Just
on the back,
wondering.
you know.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, don't ruin
I
everything.
don't have $600. I just only need 300.
Well, just, you know, go down there and get some used tires from landfill people. All right, so, but they all need to be select. Okay, the measurement from the top of the tread on one side of a tire to the top of the tread on the opposite side of the tire is what? The top of the tread on one side, and this is what they're talking about, guys. That is, some of these questions are so poorly worded. This is what they're talking about, and you can see this if you have that. We're talking outside of the tire to the outside of the tire. What is it?
That's
Huh?
Tire diameter?
Tire diameter. Yeah, that's not complicated, right?
Not really.
The section of the measurement across the tire's widest point is the
Wheel size? Wheel size?
well. Think about what you're looking at there. Section width, right?
That's what I figured.
The widest point of the tire is where? That's the belly of the tire where it sticks out on both sides of the wheel. And it goes like this, right? You can draw it like that. Right here is what we're talking about. That's your section width. Got that? All right, a 245/60R15 tire has a section width of, ooh, look at there. So you got to do math to answer this question, don't you? So if it's a 245, what's 60% of 245? 60% of 245 is what?
147.
60% of 245.
Which would round out to 15 inches.
All right, if this is 245, I don't like any of those answers. Do you?
It's 147. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It comes out, and I
Alright,
think
let's
they
go
actually, I think they actually messed up there on that question. Well, no, I'm sorry. Duh, what an idiot. 245 is the section width. Got it? Look, you were thinking about the aspect ratio. And they're talking about the section width. The section width is right. That is 245. I got my words crossed up in my head. Yeah, I guess I'm tired. To balance tires, most technicians prefer to use what? A static balancer, a bubble balancer, a dynamic balancer, or an inert balancer.
Any dynamic?
You ever seen a bubble balancer?
Uh-huh.
It's a little tripod-shaped thing, and it's got a little table on the top that you put the tire on there. And when you put that tire on there, and you sit there and look at it, it's got a little round level in there with a bubble in there, and that bubble will go off to one side or the other. And if the bubble goes off, you know, toward McDuff's, you're going to put a weight on the opposite side of where the bubble went. I'm sorry, on the side the bubble went to.
This was in the dark blue crown.
Oh, I'm not a bit surprised.
We're assuming it's yours.
It is. It's mine. It's
You
mine.
may have it.
I'll take it.
what did you say, Leslie?
But anyway, the bubble balancer has actually got a circular level, and you're going to put if the bubble went this way, then you're looking at it from the top. But what it looks like basically, and we had one at the gas station, it looks like this, and it's got a little table up here on the top like that. It's got a place where you put the tire. It's right in the middle, and it's actually got a little cone, and right in here, there's a little level, and if seen from the top, that little level looks like this, and it's got a water bubble in there. If the water bubble goes that way, if the water bubble goes off this way, you got to put a weight over there to make the water, make that go down so the water bubble will go back in the middle. You keep fooling with your weights until you get that water bubble right in the middle.
Okay.
See what I'm
Did you
saying?
say number 11 was?
Number 11 is basically the section width. The section width is 245. That's how wide it is.
Millimeters?
That's your dominant measurement, is the width of the tire. The height of the tire would be the secondary measurement, which is done by percentage. All right. Well, anyway, most people like to use a dynamic balancer, and that's the end of that story. Okay, this has been a long run, but we had a good time, didn't we? That's right.